Hey kids. So I know that we are starting in this composition. Some of you have started asking me, how do I just say blanked? Like when I sailed from blank to blank, I saw blank. And you don't know how to do that yet. You don't know how to do the blanked past. We do have a past tense, the imperfect tense, but the imperfect tense is translated was or were blanking. And that's not always what we want to say. Sometimes we want a finite, completed past. So in Latin, that is called the perfect tense. The word perfectus in Latin means finished. And hence we have the completed past, the perfect past. And if you think about it, something that we would identify as perfect, it can't be made better. It is, in our mind, finished. It is completed. So that's what the perfect tense is. So here's what you're going to need. I am sorry, I am planning to do this at school, and I know not all of you have supplies at home. So please do your best with this. You could maybe just put it in a notebook until you get to school. You're going to need your verb flip chart. You're going to need a note card that you have cut in half because we're going to be adding the note card to your flip chart. You're going to need tape. As you can see, I don't have any regular tape either. All I have is packing tape. So this is what I'm going to be using. And you're going to need a pencil. Okay? So those are the supplies you're going to need for today. Okay. So I need to start by going to my tense column. We have the present tense, we have the imperfect tense, and I am going to be adding a third note card here. I'm going to line up the pink border stripe so it's underneath the imperfect. Flip that up. I'm going to take my piece of tape and tape it down. Okay, so now I have three note cards here. Okay, I have the present, I have the imperfect, and I'm going to have a third tab. On the what do you call this? Whatever. On this part where we can see what the flap says, I'm going to write the word perfect because that's the name of my tense. Okay? And then I'm going to put a colon and I'm going to write the letters X, S, U, V largely. Okay? And then I'm going to write here blanked. I am also going to flip this over to the back. So I might draw like an arrow reminding me to flip it because actually the perfect tense can be translated three ways. You could translate it as, let's use the verb to love. You could translate it as, I loved, right? Using that blanked ending. You could also translate it, I did love. That is also the simple or completed past. And then finally, you could translate it, I have loved. Depending on the doer, it could also be has, like he, she, or it has done something. So make this what the front of your note card looks like. And remember, if I'm going too quickly, just pause. And then make this what the back of your note card looks like. Those are the three different possible translations for the verb to love. Now, what I love about the perfect tense is that there are no exceptions. It doesn't matter what conjugation number the verb is. It doesn't matter if it's irregular. It doesn't matter whatever it is. It always follows the same three steps, every single verb. So I'm going to put a line across the middle here because we're going to use this bottom half in Latin too. And I'm going to put first step, go to the third principal part. The second step is cut off the I. And then the third step is to add these endings. So we're going to add E, which is letter I. Sorry, I punctuated this incorrectly. E is T, it. Imus, istis, erunt. Okay? Those That is what you're going to write on your flip chart. Go to the third principal part, cut off the I, and add e isti it, imus istis erunt. I don't really care about the long marks in Latin 1. I mean, you should know them by Latin 3, the long marks. But in Latin 1, the long marks are not like clutch. So please write those endings and then unpause the video and let's move on to how you look at them and how you see them in Latin. Okay, so here I have put the front and the back of the note card in a visual on a Jamboard because I want to do a little practice. And so now you have made this note card on your flip chart. I'd like you to open your notes to a new piece of paper and write perfect tense at the top. Remember, at any time, if you need to go get your notebook, etc., just pause the video. Now, at the top, I want you to do some examples of creating perfect tense verbs. So what I want you to do is I want you to write this verb. This is a verb from chapter 19, which is the chapter we're going into, and it is keno. Remember, while typing, I can't do long marks. In Latin, in the note cards, I was able to give that a little more time and copy and paste, but I'm not going to do that right here. So if I were going to look up the verb to eat or to dine, it would look like this. Oh my goodness, sorry kids, I keep having typos. Okay, there we go. To dine. Okay, let's see if I can fit this in without changing the font size. Perfect. Okay, so this is the verb as it would look if I looked it up in the dictionary. This is known as the dictionary listing. Okay, so let's say I didn't want to say to dine. I wanted to say we dined. Okay, so how am I going to do that? Well, let's follow the steps. Okay, so step 1, go to the third principal part. So first principal part, comma, second principal part, comma, third principal part. So I'm going to start with Kenawi. Oh my gosh, I keep typing it wrong. I'm so sorry, kids. Kenawi. Step number 2, cut off the I. Bloop, gone. Step number 3, add the appropriate ending. So I want to say we dined. So what ending am I going to add? I'm going to add imus. E isti it, imus istis erunt. And kenawimos means we dined. Okay, it's simple as that. What if I wanted to say they dined? I'm going to follow the same steps. I'm going to go to the third principal part, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to cut off the I, step number 2. And then step number 3, I'm going to add the appropriate ending. And I wanted to say they, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this so I have my long mark, because Mama does actually like those long marks. And I'm going to put erunt there. Kenau erunt, they dined. Okay, so put that in your notebooks. And then what I want you to do is I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, and I want you to put them in Latin in your notebook. And you're going to take a picture of this homework at the end. There's one more frame, so don't start yet. And you're going to send it to me. So let's see. Let's come up with a couple of verbs from your Quizlet list. I can't remember. So, I've got some. All right. So here's the verb to leave behind. Relinquo, relinquere, reliqui, relictus means to leave behind. And what I would like you to do in your notebook is I would like you to write I have left behind, and also y'all have left behind. Okay, so that's one of the ones that I want you guys to do. I want you to do both of those. And let's do one more. Let's do skio-skira. Okay, skio-skira is another verb from this list. It is skio, skira, skire, skiwi, skitus, and this means to know. Okay, the derivative of that is science, conscience, conscious. Okay, so I want you to say you did know and she knew. Okay, so I want you to give me those forms of that verb. Go ahead and do that. Pause the video a while and then come on back. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken a section from chapter 19 And I wanted us to do a little bit of analysis and looking for the verbs, trying to identify what verb tense they are. Like, is it present tense? Is it imperfect tense? Is it perfect tense? So now I want to address this thing here, this X, S, U, or V. So if you're looking at a verb and you want to determine, do I have the perfect tense? Something that you absolutely must have without exception is these endings. So you must have ist, it, imus, istis, erunt. If the verb doesn't have these endings, you do not have perfect tense. You can't, okay? If you see one of these endings, ist, it, imus, istis, erunt, if you see one of those endings and the letters X, S, U, or V in front of these endings, 99 times out of 100, you've got a perfect tense verb. It is a very clear indicator. So I made this like memory trick that helped me to remember the perfect tense letters. This is not a statement of truth, but in my perfect world, I would drive an extra long or extra large SUV. Now, kids, you will not always have one of these indicating letters, okay? But if you have these endings with these indicating letters out in front of it, 99 times out of 100, you got perfect tense. So let's take a look at a couple of different verbs, okay? So I'm going to box some verbs in red. And that is not what I meant to do. And we are going to try to analyze them, okay? So in the first sentence, I have this verb, use it. I know it's a verb because it ends in T. In the next sentence, I have the verb portaverunt, okay? In the next sentence, I have the verb clamavit. You'll notice Mickey Mouse endings, right? In the next sentence, I have the verb paraverunt. Next, I have the verb vultis, T-I-S. Remember, O-S-T, M-U-S, T-I-S-N-T. I have esurio, O-S-T. I'm going to skip inquit. I have wolo. And if you want to try and do these on your own in your mind, just pause and try and like do them ahead of me. Right now, I am identifying them for you because I really want to work on verb identification, like the tense identification, not the verb itself. Sum is a verb. The next sentence, I have the verb kenawerunt, kenawerunt. The next verb is ierunt. And then I have two more verbs in the last line, and that is dormiebat and vigilabat. Okay? So those are the verbs, with the exception of inquit, I didn't put a box around, in this section. So I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the most obvious tense first. The most obvious tense is always going to be the imperfect, because remember, the imperfect sheep can't bleep. It can't go, ba, it's imperfect. So it goes, ba, right? That's how you know it's imperfect. So I'm going to make myself a little kind of some sections here. So I'm going to list present tense verbs. And here I'm going to list imperfect tense verbs. You can do this in your notebook. This is going to be part of your homework. And here I'm going to list perfect tense verbs. Oops, I'm going to spell it right. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to look for imperfect first, because imperfect is so spottable, because you're looking for ba, unless you have an irregular verb, but we're just going to not talk about that right now. Okay, so if I'm looking for ba, what I find is this verb dormir, but he was, oh, sorry, it's she, it's Aurelia. She was sleeping. So that's the first one. And then I see that I also have vigilabat. So I'm going to put that one as well. Vigilabat, subject is Cornelia. So she. Vigilabat means to be watchful or to stay awake, to keep watch. She was staying awake. And a derivative for that is the word vigil. okay, the word vigil in English. So what do I do next? What do I want you guys to do next? What I want you guys to do next is I want you to find 3 present tense verbs, and I want you to find 3 perfect tense verbs. Okay, so that's going to be part of your homework, in conjunction with making a note card and doing the stuff from the first frame of the Jamboard. Okay, so I'm going to help you out with the present tense. Okay, I'm going to give you one. So I'm going to go to this one, sum. So sum, if we look at it, it doesn't end in ba, right? So it's not imperfect, and it's actually an irregular, so it would actually be eram, but it's not that. And it doesn't have I, isti, it, imos, istis, erunt as an ending. So sum can only fit in the present tense. Sum equals I am. Okay, that's an irregular verb. So what I want you to do for me is find 3 more, okay, and put them in your notebook. Put them on the same page with the work from the previous jam frame, because you're going to take a picture of this and also take a picture of your verb flip chart, and you're going to load those as proof of having completed your homework. Okay. Now, how about perfect tense? So for perfect tense, I'm looking for these endings preceded by the letters X, S, U, or V. So I'm going to look at my first word that is boxed. So my first verb in this paragraph is use it. It ends in IT. So far, so good. And the letter immediately preceding it is an S. Let's use a different color. So what I have here is the perfect tense ending of IT. I'm sorry. I have the perfect tense ending of IT with one of our indicating letters right in front of it. Ending of IT, indicating letter of S. I can absolutely say that this is going to be perfect tense. So I'm going to list that in my perfect tense column. Use it. And this is he, she, or it. Well, it's he because it's referring to the innkeeper. He. And then here's the tricky part. You have to know what verb it comes from. This is tough. And this is one of the ways you can check to make sure that you have a perfect tense verb. So this verb comes from, make this a little bit bigger. It comes from the verb eubeo, eubeira with a long mark over the E, usi, usus. I know. It feels like a lot to learn right now, right? This word means to order. Okay? So use it then means he ordered. Okay? Because you're going to take the meaning of the word and add letters ed. Kids, for the time being, I will give you the principal parts of the verbs that you're going to see. Because right now, what I want you to focus on is recognition and translation. And then next week, after April break, we'll work on formation. Though, if some of you want to include the perfect tense in your compositions, please feel free to do so. So your homework, to reiterate, is complete the note card, take a picture, complete the notes from frame 1 and frame 2 here, take a picture of those as well, and load both of those things to Google Classroom. So kids, that's the perfect tense. That's how you do the simple past, the blank. I ran, I jumped, I loved, we shared. Okay, this is going to be one of the most common tenses that you will use and you will begin to recognize in Latin, because they use it just as much as we use it in English, which is a lot, right? So I hope this was clear, and we will start to work on this tomorrow in class. See you tomorrow.